episode of Video Game Logic. Today's episode was recorded on October the 3rd, 2018. I'm your host, Gaming Psychologist, and with me, as always, from the Dark Ages.
Caffeine Rage? I'm not sure how I should take about that one.
Well, I mean, you didn't have internet, so you might as well have been in the Dark Ages. On today's show, we're going to be having another short one, because as the aforementioned lack of internet prevented us recording on our regular night, we're doing this one on Wednesday again, and we will be discussing the games that we have played over the last couple of weeks. We're going to be having a mega topic, Workers' Comp, a state of the gaming industry. We'll be having our weekly community corner and a Steam Discovery queue. Timestamps will be in the show notes following their respective topics. Hello, Rage.
Hello.
How are you?
Oh, better than I was yesterday because I was not pleased.
Nope. I got a text from you at like noon. It was
1 o'clock. My internet went down at 1. And
yep.
Okay. Story time. I was browsing the web and putting in an order for some groceries, and I noticed my internet was getting a little sluggish. Okay, well, that's a little strange because I pay for the good internet. You know, I have the highest package I could get. I get a gig down. So if the internet's being sluggish for me, it's either my computer is doing its Chrome weirdness, or the site is crashing. Well, then everything just starts timing out, and I'm getting no internet errors through Chrome. Okay, that's not good. Look at the modem. Everything's still lit up properly. Okay, well, modem's still connected. Let's start troubleshooting. I start going through the procedure, I disconnect and reconnect to the computer itself. And I changed the port on the modem because it's one of those combos, router modem combinations, just to force it to assign a new IP. That didn't do anything. I was about to cycle the power on the router, or I should say the modem. I'm using those interchangeably because it's one piece of hardware on my desk.
Yeah.
And then all the lights go off of it. I'll think, oh shit, it just died on me. And then the power comes on and it just starts blinking the USDS, the upstream downstream connection.
Yeah.
And that's supposed to be solid. Not a good sign. So I go ahead and cycle the power anyway because, why not at this point? And I sit here for about 10 minutes, usually long enough for it to connect because cable modems are irritating on their connection speed. I should say establishing connection speed. And it doesn't connect. Go to my ISP's website on my phone. Thankfully, I also went for the better package on my phone, so I have plenty of data to use. And I check, and they say no outages. Well, fuck. Well, alright then, let's call tech support. So go through the procedure on there because they have the automated thing, and if you don't go through that step by step and they see that you've gone through it too quickly, they'll make you do it whenever you get the agent. So why the hell not at this point? So do that, get the agent, and they start going through, asking me, did I do this? And I tell them step by step what I did. The only thing that I didn't do yet was swap out my Cat 6 cables for a different one on my set just to isolate, make sure that it couldn't be a factor. Then they see on their computer that there's an outage in my area. Funny, the website doesn't mention that. Alright, fine. That's about when I sent you the text message or just before I started calling them because usually when there's an outage in my area, it's gonna be a while. So I go socialize outside for a bit and just be bored otherwise because there's nothing else here to do. Because let's put it this way, my town is so isolated and boring, it doesn't even have a bar. Let that sink in.
That's pretty bad.
All the bars here have closed. That should be telling, right? And I couldn't exactly go out much anyway because I was still recovering from my grocery odyssey, which you don't need to hear about that because this is far more irritating and hilarious because I'm pissed off. Well, just, kind of kill time till about 7 o'clock. And I'm periodically going to the ISP's website and checking to see if they even report that there's an outage in my area, because the technician said that they usually don't declare an outage on the site until they have an ETA for when it'll come back up. Well, there's nothing yet, and the person that I got a hold of at first said call back at about half an hour to get an ETA. Well, the thing is, I called back about 5 or 6 hours later, just before I would do my pre-game setup, scrape for all the articles and check the email, that sort of thing. And I went right through to an agent. Usually, whenever there's an outage in my area, they just say there's an outage in your area, give you an ETA, then hang up on you. Well, I should say the computer does. Which, that's great.
Same for me.
That's great customer support, huh?
Yeah, although that's the only time I ever call is to report issues and find out if there's an outage. So,
well, I go right through to an agent, so I'm thinking, oh great, my modem didn't reset on the thing. Well, she checks and finds that there's reported an outage in my area, and says that there's really nothing that she could do. And I do understand that there's nothing she could do. She's in the trenches. She's not out in the field, trying to get the gerbil back in the wheel.
Yeah.
So, that's when I texted you pretty much saying, no show tonight. Unless the only option I had really was to tether my phone to the computer. But I think that would have been too unstable.
Yeah.
I have plenty of data to be able to do that, but that's a last ditch. We must record tonight or else. So
yeah,
texted you, and it's like, oh well, fine. I'll just go piddle around on the phone, relax for a bit, just to because there's nothing else to do around here. I already went out and socialized twice, which is 2 more times than Jared would.
Indeed.
So around midnight, I noticed the modem stopped flashing and everything came back up. All right, great. Well, I sent you that message. It was 10 hours, and then immediately after about half an hour, it went down again. I said, "Fuck it," and went to sleep.
Yep, I was long gone by the time you texted me about that.
Yeah, you called
it American.
You called it an early night.
I did, because I knew we were going to do this, and then Star Wars RPG is after this, and I'm hoping in between, if it works out, I can at least start editing. I know you've got to run it through your process and upload it too, so
yeah, which it doesn't take that long.
No, but depending on exactly what time we get done and how much time there is in between. But I just was like, you know what? I really need to get a good night's sleep. So I played American Truck for a little bit, and then I laid down and did some stuff on my phone and sort of wound down. And then I was asleep by 10 o'clock or so, which is extremely early for me. But I just was like, you know what? I'm gonna get some extra sleep so I can be prepared for tonight.
Yeah. Well, would you rather me not do my pre-processing? I think I sound a lot better when I do it.
Nah, you're fine.
Honestly, it doesn't change my voice that much. It just makes me a lot clearer. But yeah, that's why we didn't record yesterday, was that my ISP sucks. And I was bored and pissed off. And I didn't even end up playing any mobile games out of it because everything I tried, mobile gaming has gotten to the point where load up something and I see all the microtransactions and everything and I shut it down. Or I find some sort of problem with it. Like there's one that's actually somewhat interesting, but they have no tutorial on it whatsoever. It's a sandbox RPG. You're out flying a fleet of spaceships. But it's one of those games that feels like it's made to have tooltips. because everything has icons, but they don't explain what the fucking icons do. Or really any of the game concepts at all, actually. Oh.
I see. I do that a lot with mobile games now, too. I'll just close one instead of trying to get through to the, I don't know, to figure it out or get past the early microtransaction bullshit. Although it just becomes later microtransaction bullshit if it's that bad.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, if I don't find anything soon, we may have to drop that award from the VGO awards. Because there's been nothing that really that's gotten me this year.
That's okay. It's not like we don't have 30 something other awards.
Yeah, plus
or whatever.
Plus there's the new one I added to the list.
Yeah.
And I'm sure I could come up with others.
I'm sure that's a thing that we could do.
I mean, it wouldn't be us if our award show didn't run into the second day.
Yeah, there's gonna have to be a limit at some point. But
I think the limit should be, whenever by the time we get around to the last award, we're starting to award the first awards again.
Yeah, that's too long. I can't sit at my computer for that long. My back will break. And I'll be hungry. But I guess I'd lose a lot of weight just sitting here.
Just get a giant hamster bottle full of water so you don't dehydrate.
I drink a lot of water. Also, I'd have to go to the bathroom a lot. Anyways, speaking of awards for games, which has games in them, let's go talk about those games that we played, Rage. Games.
Well, I think a better segue would be, speaking of games that would win awards, how about one that wouldn't win an award from me?
Well, see, I didn't. I just bonked my spoon. I didn't.
I'm pretty sure you're not supposed to bunk your spoon.
Yeah, yeah. That's fine. Carry on.
So, Megaquarium, this was a Sunday sampler from like 3 weeks ago now, which the Sunday sampler's gone intermittent just because I'm not getting review codes at the moment, because Miller kind of sucks. But yeah, Megaquarium, it's a tycoon game where you're running essentially a city aquarium. And it's trying to do two different things, and it's not really succeeding at anything. It's the same problem I really had with Moonlighter, where there's a good concept there, but when you break it down, it's trying to do two separate things, and it's not doing either of them really well. And for me, two lackluster parts doesn't come together to make a good game. So Megaquarium is trying to be a tycoon game, but it's also trying to be the offset of tycoon games where it's more of a sandbox experience. Think of it as the old school SimCity versus what City Skylines has become, or Parkitect versus Planet Coaster, where one is a more management style game and the other is you're given essentially a canvas, and there is some management aspects to it, but you can, for the most part, ignore those. Megaquarium is trying to straddle the line between the two, and it ended up just falling and hitting its balls. So, yeah, I was really disappointed by this because I wanted to like it. This game has potential, but there's just not enough cosmetic stuff in it to make it be a sandbox title. There's only so many fish that you could do, and there's only so many aspects to the tanks that you could set up. But on the flip side, on the management side of things, if you run the same cosmetics too many times, which there's only a handful of, there's only so many types of plants, there's only so many types of rocks in the game, customers start to become bored, and you lose the prestige points that is the main driving goal of your level up system in the game. It's essentially the tier system. You hit certain tiers and you level up your general aquarium to unlock new research, new fish that you can unlock, that sort of thing. And the prestige comes in, well, if you pardon the ocean term, in waves, where you'll get a new group of visitors to come in, and they'll wander around for a few days because, Tycoon games have a weird sense of time to them. And they'll get a bunch of prestige up, but then because they've been in the aquarium for too long, and they start seeing the same things over and over again, you start losing prestige because they're still wandering around the damn aquarium after day 7. Add to this that you have no control over the business management outside of setting the price on the vending machines. You're not even setting up a gift shop. The gift shop in the game is you set up a booth, and people just take a god and deposit money. That's it. There's no marketing campaigns a la the old Roller Coaster Tycoon style. And the other big adjustment that you could do is try to streamline the amount of staff that you run, so there's fewer staff to manage the aquarium, so you're not using as much money for salary, and that's it. You could level up your staff, but the staff just gain experience, and then you could unlock any skill on them. And high level skills allow staff to do faster things, and but it just felt really disappointing to me. And there's a really big set it and forget it aspect to this game, where after you set up an aquarium, unless the game lied to you when you were setting it up, and I'll get to that in a moment, you do not have to touch that fucking aquarium again. At all. The staff don't have to clean aquariums. They don't have to deal with fish getting too old, from what I could tell, to have to restock the aquarium after a fish died or something. It's just, it does its thing, and that's it. But I mentioned the game lying to you. One aspect of a Tycoon game is information. And when the game blatantly misleads you on your information, that's what I consider a dick move. And this game does that. Certain fish in the game does something that they call growing. They go from a small size to a large size. And each tank has a certain amount of size that it can support. Well, something the game doesn't tell you is that as the fish grows, it also increases its demand on its environment, and also can change its negative aspects. For example, a fish may be able to eat smaller fish. Just a predator, or, it may be a bottom feeder where it'll eat the crustaceans or damage the coral or whatever below a certain threshold. Well, the game will tell you that the fish will go from like size 3 to size 9. But it doesn't mention one damn thing about all the other attributes changing. And I started noticing that my fish were getting eaten by other fish. And it took me a while to really figure out why that was, because all the information that the game was giving me outside of, well, it wasn't even an alert, because the game doesn't even have a proper alert system to it, which that's also a big negative. It has a message system, and the little mail icon in the bottom left will have a small number on it, but there's no proper alert system that really will grab your attention if things are going poorly, which makes me think that the game is built around more of a sandbox aspect than a business sim aspect. But it doesn't mention that it requires more heat because, or it requires the temperature of it puts more demand on the aquarium's temperature. Either it's heating or cooling depending on the type of fish. The aspect where it will eat other fish below a certain threshold will also raise. It will put more stress on the filters, which in hindsight that makes a little bit of sense on at least the filter aspect, but because it doesn't mention it, I didn't consider it,
Yeah.
And because the game doesn't say, Hey, your fish are eating other fish in a big alert, or even a Rimworld-esque just a noise whenever a major alert is coming up. Then I missed it for quite a while until I noticed that I had lost a fair amount of prestige, and when my tanks was a little on the empty side. But the game will annoy the ever-living fuck out of you when your staff level up. They'll just pop up in the middle of anything. So if you're trying to just let time run while you're setting up an aquarium before adding all the fish to build up some money in the background, you're not going to be doing that because your staff will be leveling up and will be constantly irritating you and interrupting you. So, yeah, as you may tell, I wasn't too enthused by this game in the slightest.
Yeah. Well, I've heard you talk about this several times at this point because we've talked about it at recording nights and then we've just been chatting because this has been for, 3 weeks ago?
Yeah, something like that.
So, yeah, Yep. You turned me off of this game 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, and also the game eats up a hell of a lot of resources for its style. It has almost a Nintendo Me style aspect to its in-game people, and the game isn't exactly high fidelity, but it suggests. All right, I'm going to read this off of here. All right. Intel i5 45 or 4690 or AMD Ryzen 7 2700U. I mean, that's not a low processor. Granted, I was running on my FX chip, so that's a little off. But also suggests 8 gigs of RAM. For this? Really?
Is it using that much RAM? Is it inefficient?
It's inefficient
poorly
as hell.
Optimized?
I did notice it was eating up a fair amount of RAM for what it is. But I didn't look at the actual numbers. Let's just put it this way. Immediately after I recorded the Sunday sampler, I immediately uninstalled this game. I mean, that should tell you something, huh?
That bad, huh?
Yeah.
Pop in a cough drop. That's better than Megaquarium. This cough drop.
Well, it actually does what it says on the tin.
It does.
Also, one other thing that irritated me about the game, and this is my nitpick for the night. All right, everyone that carries something in this game, they do not have an animation to carry it. It's the same walking animation, and the item is just floating in front of them. And this was on the release version.
They all have magic powers.
Yeah, they were all using telekinesis or something. It's one of those things I noticed, and then I just couldn't stop seeing it. As a matter of fact, you can see it on the damn screenshots here. Take a look on the if you're looking at this on the 4th screenshot, the woman going into the bathroom. Take a look at the coffee cup that she's holding.
That's a giant coffee cup, just floating in front of her.
Yeah, it's like a 55-gallon drum of coffee, which granted,
I can relate.
I do enjoy my coffee, but I think it wouldn't be good in the 55-gallon drum. And everything's just so low poly for the system resources it requires. It's just weird. Yeah, so not enthused. I would say a pass unless it goes on heavy discount and this is your thing. If they add in mod support or have more cosmetics where they could push it more to the sandbox aspect, then maybe. But it's just such a damn grind to go from one tier to another. It's quite the jump in prestige. And like I said, because you can't actively bring in people or do some sort of marketing campaign, you're just at the whims of the game saying, okay, it's time for a new wave of people as people leave. Granted, I only played the release version, so maybe they changed things in the last 3 weeks. It does look like they're actively supporting it or actively patching it, but it, reduced memory usage of save and load menu, increased performance of save and load menu in the latest patch. That should tell you something, huh?
Yeah.
I do not think this game is well optimized at all. Completely revamped the system for packing 3D models to decrease load times. Oh. Yeah, I would say this is a pass, at least for $25. If this was in the $10 to $15 range, maybe. So yeah, that's Megaquarium. Unless you got any questions, but I think I've successfully turned you off from it.
Oh, you turned me off on it the first time we talked about it. Alrighty.
Do you want to go?
See. I can. Technically I have 3, but 2 of them I'm going to kind of talk about together, and you know which 2, so.
Or should I do one more, then you go in the middle?
Why don't you go ahead and do one more?
Okay, well, my other one, or other main game I did was Hollow Knight, and this was one I actually streamed for a bit. My first major foray in streaming, and Hollow Knight, it's one of those games that I like, but it also frustrates the hell out of me. Where maybe I've gotten soft, but there's no real nudging in a direction. So there's been a few times in this game where I would think that I couldn't progress in a certain way because it didn't tell me a particular move that I already had. So I assumed that I needed to go get a new item in order to progress. A good example of this, as I do a mic hit when I scratch my nose, was this one section where you bounce on mushrooms. Hollow Knight is a Metroidvania game, so it's one of those things that there's a certain style of gameplay in play here, where there's the usual trips. There's usually some sort of double jump or dash maneuver or both. There's some sort of wall climb or wall jump. That sort of thing. So whenever I would run into an obstacle that could be traversed in another way, I assumed that I was going the wrong way and I had to do something else. And I found it a little more frustrating than I think I would like. Also, towards the end of my last stream on it, I ran into a bunch of enemies that like to teleport and then shoot you. Now, mind you, you have a spell, or at least I have a spell at this point where I could do a ranged attack as well. But the game has this system in it where you build up spirit or soul or whatever. And you only could launch a magic attack a few times. And in order to regenerate it, you have to do melee damage. Which is a little frustrating whenever you're dealing with creatures that can teleport away. And also, it has a Dark Souls-esque element to it where if you die, you have a damaged soul meter where you could only carry, or where you could only generate so much until you go reclaim your corpse and actually defeat the shade that you leave behind, which also gains the moves that you've learned at that time to also gain back all the money that you've carried or gained to that point that you haven't successfully stashed away into the bank, which the bank is also fairly far out of the way. It's a fun game, but I do think that it has a very certain niche to it that I'm not certain is me just yet. I do enjoy my Metroidvanias, at least a few that I played, but this is a little bit more hardcore than what I've played in the past in this particular genre. And maybe it's just that I've kind of cut my teeth on Metroidvanias that have a roguelite element on them, where there's a procedural generation and you're expected to die, and that's how you progress, is you do a certain amount of the run to build up power in between the runs, instead of overarching large sprawling, because the map is absolutely huge. I haven't even uncovered a third of it based on some of the lists I've seen. But yeah, it's a very interesting title, and I do like the aesthetic of it, but it's also a very frustrating title. It's a very difficult Metroidvania, which that's not a bad thing, but it's requires a certain finesse that I don't think I have yet. Also, I'm pretty convinced that one of the moves is, if not bugged, very, very difficult to do on my controller. The downward slash, it seems like I have less than a 50% success rate of actually doing it, no matter how often I hit that button combination. The hit down and attack at the same time, and it seems like half the time I'm just slashing forward instead of doing a downward slash. It's weird. No matter what I do, it doesn't seem to be registering that properly, which has also added to my frustration with the game. And I'm not sure if that's just me, if it's my controller, or if I just suck. But you saw, be having trouble with downward slash, right? You were on that stream, right?
I was. I don't remember you having trouble with downward slash. I remember the guy that came to the stream and was like, "You have to downward slash the thing to bounce off of it."
Yeah, and there was there was no indication of that.
Yeah. But then I left shortly after that. I don't remember you having trouble.
Yeah, I had trouble getting through that section because of the downward slash not hitting properly all the time. Granted, I probably could macro it, but if it's bugged, then, or I should say not bugged, but they have some sort of thing to prevent you from macroing it, because that could also be a thing. I don't know. It's weird. Just that downward slash thing is kind of holding me back from it, just because of not hitting it properly. That's actually why I didn't get through Guacamelee. Was I hit a section where, ironically, it was the other way around. There was an uppercut move that I was having trouble hitting. So I'm not sure if the PlayStation 4 controller has some sort of weird thing with the D-pad, which it might.
Yeah, I have no idea. I mean, we talked about this a little bit too before. I like the looks of the game, and I can tell it's a good game.
Yeah.
Overall,
yeah.
Not perfect, but good. I just don't like this type of game, and a hardcore version of that does not appeal to me in the slightest.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and when I hit the next boss, which was essentially a big version of the enemies I was already bitching about, it kind of destroyed the momentum I had going into it. Because I was enjoying myself, and then I hit hit enemies that would just teleport away and shoot you, and you can't get away from them. That's the annoying thing, is that if you try to run, they'll just teleport along in front of you and then shoot you.
Yeah,
I mean, that's not particularly fun, at least to me.
Nope, that wouldn't be fun for me either.
And also, it's kind of the opposite of a power fantasy, where you're probably the weakest creature in the game, or if not, then one of them. One of the bosses, fairly early on, is essentially a lot better version of you. She's a lot faster. She has a longer range. She has better ranged attacks. I'm just like, why can't I play her?
I want to be this character that's better than me.
I mean, granted, that is part of the thing of Metroidvania, is a character progression, where your character starts off, if not very weak, in a weakened state of some sort, and slowly progresses in power, gets new moves, gets new options, new ways to diverse the level. But at the same time, being stuck with a very, very short range slash and a ranged attack that you get maybe 4 charges of before you're out of spirit or out of soul, and then you have to go slash something a few times. I found it a bit irritating. But it is a beautiful game, and going through the different areas there's very different themes at work. Just getting to the City of Tears, where it turns from this big sprawling cave network to an underground city that's sitting under a lake that's leaks through the roof and creates a perpetual rainstorm, is absolutely breathtaking. But then it's kind of tempered by the fact that, I gotta deal with this boss now. Yeah, I'm not sure what else to really say about Hollow Knight, though. There's not a lot of story yet. It's one of those games that it tells its story by the atmosphere, by little bits here and there, instead of an overarching full-on plot. I assume by the end of it you'll have a better idea of what's going on, and it is a very long Metroidvania, north of 30 hours, and that's even before you get to the free DLC that's added new modes and new things that are just hidden away that you have to find and do. It's a like I said, it's a very interesting game if you're interested in the genre, especially a more hardcore version of the genre. But I'm not sure if I'm quite there yet. Maybe this is one I should come back to at another time.
Maybe. I don't know. Like I said, it looks good. I can tell it's a good game. Yeah. Not for me. Not in a million years. So. Alrighty.
That was worth a shot at least.
Yeah. So do you want me to talk about one or both of my...
You could do both.
Okay. So after we wrapped up Fallout New Vegas, I just kind of was like, I just want to play like some nice, comforting games, like some chill, laid-back games, go back to something familiar. Like, not that I had any issues with New Vegas or like was upset or anything by it, but I just was like, I just want to go back and play something that I'm really familiar with, that I can just enjoy and listen to some podcasts and stuff, because I couldn't do that while I was playing New Vegas for however many hours. And
not enough.
I had gotten behind.
I gotta say, I couldn't help but river you one more time.
Yeah, fair enough. But so I played technically 3 games, but 2 of them I'm going to talk together at the same time. But the first one, though, I went back and I just started playing KSP again. I started a new game. A new career. And I've never really played the game an extended amount of time with no mods. And I guess technically I'm not doing that because I'm using Kerbal Engineer, but I gotta have my...
that has to be stock. I consider that stock light at this point. It's very frustrating that they haven't put in at least a light version of Kerbal Engineer by this point.
Right. Just something to give you your Kerbin Delta V would be enough, honestly.
Even if it's later in the career mode and you have to level up an engineer to be able to tell you how much Delta V you have, or even just more information.
Yeah.
That's just an oddity.
That's the only mod I'm using is Kerbal Engineer, just so I know what my Delta V and thrust weight and stuff are. But otherwise, I'm playing a completely stock game, and I'm like halfway through the tech tree at this point. I just, been a while since I played it. Thought it would be good to go back to. Been listening to podcasts while I play. I've got the KSS, the Kerbal Space Station. Have to do that every time. Got
have you captured an asteroid yet, or is that later in the tech tree? I can't remember.
I'm pretty close to the tech to be able to capture an asteroid. The grabber arm is like right in the middle of the tech tree, but I focused on some other stuff first. Yeah, the claw. But that's going to be something that I do soon, is capture an asteroid. I've got a couple of research bases, one orbiting the Mun and one orbiting Minmus, with craft to go down and land and collect science and come back. I got a couple of stuff I've launched out into the solar system for some quick science to radio back, that sort of stuff. But playing without mods does present a new set of challenges, because I'm so used to having like a million parts to do stuff, and also additional science from particularly the D-Magic science pack. Mm-hmm. But
yeah, when I play with D-Magic, I actually turned down my science percentage to about 70 or 80.
Yeah, because you can really quickly blow through the tech tree with all the extra stuff if you don't do that. Although research labs pretty much let you do that anyways once you get a couple going. Able to generate 500 science really quickly and then just beam it back home. But anyways, it's just like, having to deal with some challenges I've not really had to deal with before, because I have less parts. So I have to figure out how to make something using the parts in game, or just change my design philosophy. And I mean, it's been fine. I've got enough experience. I know what I'm doing. It's just a little bit of more of like a puzzle to solve, as opposed to just like an insurmountable problem. I just have to figure out, okay, what can I do with what I have, as opposed to having, a million things to go through. And it's been nice. It's, been doing what I wanted it to do, which is just have something to relax to, listen to some podcasts to. My kid's more into it this time than last time. He's a little bit older. He really likes to count down. He's like, let's build a rocket and count down, Daddy. So we count it down, 3, 2, 1, blast off, and then we'll launch the rocket. He likes to do the stages, and he likes to, like, he'll be like, oh, I'm gonna press the space bar. No, don't do that. Psh, too late. Well, we are not going to space today. I mean, that part is going to space that you just launched, beyond the horizon, but the main part is not going to space today, so let's just abort. But I don't want to, like, take that away from him. Like, I don't want to lock the stages because it's fun and, it's a good time for us to spend together. But I helped him make a very simple rocket just using an SRB with the basic capsule on top of it, the big SRB. I forget which one it's called, but it has enough delta V to get into orbit. And, I mean, if you did, like, a perfect launch, you could probably actually get an elliptical orbit out of it. But I just let him do it completely.
Mm-hmm.
And so we just went straight up and then straight back down. And he didn't deploy the chute. So it crashed into the ground in a glorious, spectacular fireball.
Well, hardly the first death for Jeb.
He was like, whoopsie, I didn't deploy the parachute, Daddy. I'm like, you did that on purpose. That was not a whoopsie. But we've had a blast playing it together. We tried building a space plane. Actually, that's not true. We did build a space plane. Trying to build a space plane without additional parts is difficult. Because it's like, where the hell am I going to put these rockets? Because I'm not far enough up the tree to have, what are they called? The Tiger or whatever? The one that
Rapier engines?
Yeah, I don't have those. So I'm having to use just a regular jet engine. Although I've got the ones, I forget what they're called, but they're the ones that have afterburners. Mm-hmm. So I've got those and then attached rockets. But we did get it down. We built the space plane. We went to space. We circularized our orbit. We delivered a payload, just like a ComSat. And then we came back, and that ended badly. Getting into space was fine. Coming back from space was a disaster.
Yeah, I'm not good at the whole landing thing.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to be happy to just land it anywhere. I was going to try to land at the Space Center, but if I had to land somewhere else or ditch in the water, I would have been okay with that. But my design, I mean, space planes, I didn't give it enough wing surface area to handle flying at low speeds. So it just was flipping all over the place, and I didn't think to check what it would be like dry versus full. So my center of mass and center of lift were in the wrong spot. It was just a disaster. So we bailed, and I bailed out one of the pilots and deployed their parachute, because that's standard now, is that they have parachutes. And then I went to switch back to the plane. I was going to bail out the other one. I couldn't switch to it. You can't switch. The message popped up. It's like, you can't change craft while in atmosphere. And I'm like, well, fuck you. Valentina's going to die and have to be recycled at the... I mean, I didn't say that because my kid's sitting there, but in my head, that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, I'm just thinking of the comic now where it's the lander that crashes on the... Well, let's assume Mun or Minmus. One of the two. And out of the wreckage, Jeb just climbs out. He activates his RCS and just starts flying back home.
Yeah. But no, so Valentina Kerman died in a horrible crash as the space plane tumbled into a mountain.
Well, let's just admit it. She was cackling with glee the entire time.
She probably was. And I mean, she'll recycle, and I can get her back from the whatever.
Yeah, it makes you wonder just what the biology of carbons are, where they could die in a horrible horrible twisted mass of wreckage, and then all of a sudden they just walk back into Space Center like nothing happened.
Yeah, it's like, hey guys, what's up? How did you do that?
Do you think they liquefy? They're a T-1000. They just liquefy on impact, and they just kind of coalesce back together.
Sort of, but I think instead of liquefying, they evaporate. Like, they turn into some sort of like powder, almost like pollen, and they float back to the Space Center on the wind currents. Because they're green.
What, like a Kerbal in the wind?
All we are is Kerbals in the wind. But, I mean, it's been fun. I don't know how far I'll get. I mean, my goal was to finish out the tech tree and then maybe plant a flag on every body in the system. But I don't know if I'll actually get that far. I just always run out of steam before I get to the end, usually. And without mods, some of the things that I like to do are impossible, like setting up a fuel base on Minmus or
at least with
somewhere.
that attitude.
I mean, you can sort of do it, but it doesn't work as well.
Yeah, I don't think I could do KSP without mods, or at least for long.
It's a different experience, and I am enjoying it. But yeah, I'm missing some of the things that mods provide. So
particularly some of the park packs that fill out some of the holes in the things. Even with the DLC. Did you get the DLC?
No, I don't have that.
Or I wasn't sure if you had it or not. Most of that really is just moddable. The big thing is the mission pack. I'm toying around with KSP myself. And I actually went through some of the tutorials and the scenarios. Have you ever tried the docking scenario?
No, I've never done any of them.
They give you the worst possible spacecraft to try to dock with. All right. You have only RCS, and you're in a space plane. And don't ask me why they have a space plane around Minmus. Kerbals. And the docking port faces up out of the plane.
Yeah, that sucks.
And the RCS isn't balanced properly. So whenever you're trying to transition, you roll slightly.
Well, that's Kerbals for you.
I'm able to do it. It's just, there's a few curse words in the middle of all of it.
Well, I mean, what good would or what fun would docking be if you didn't swear and also sing the song up a bit, down a bit, left a bit?
Careful, you may summon ABK.
I would be okay with that. But yeah, so that's one game that I played, and then the other two games that I've played, I'm going to be talking about together because they just are they're basically the same game with just the differences of.
The basic difference is where the engine is. Yeah.
So American Truck and Euro Truck Simulator. I mean, I've played these games before. Actually, I've never played American Truck before. I played Euro Truck before. Well, when I say Euro Truck, I mean Euro Truck Simulator 2, but I think most people just call that Euro Truck. But anyways, I mean, I've played Euro Truck before, and I've liked what I've played. And the thing that I've always said before is, like, I like this type of game. This is great for relaxing, for podcasting, and the management aspect gives it just enough to sort of go above and beyond that. But just like the time has never been right. I've always had one of those games anyways, like Factorio or Eve, farther back in the past, or KSP. So I was just like, you know what? I think I want to play Euro Truck some.
I just went to look, and you actually own the original Euro Truck.
I do, and I've played it a little bit, and I liked it. But, I mean, it doesn't have the management and stuff. It's just driving your truck around, getting new trucks.
Well, to be fair, there's not much management to begin with.
That's true. But anyways, so I started playing Euro Truck a couple weeks ago, 3 weeks ago maybe. And I was really getting into it just before I left to go to Kyle and Mel's wedding. So I put on my laptop, tested it on there, figured out that it would run on my laptop. It'll stay at around 60 for a while. Eventually it gets hot, and then thermal throttling kicks in, and it'll drop to about 35 or 40. And then it slows down in cities or in towns. I've been tweaking settings to try and keep it at least at 45, even when it's in town or thermal throttling kicks in. And I've about got it there. Turning off like secondary vehicle lights and stuff like that has helped, especially at nighttime, because it runs worse at night during the day, actually. I guess because it's doing all of the extra reflections and everything, plus the secondary lights and some other stuff. So I've been tweaking it to get it run right. But once I got into Euro Truck, I was like, I should get American Truck Simulator 2, because they were on sale that week. So I bought American Truck Simulator. I think it was like the ATS starter pack or something like that, which comes with the game and the state DLCs and the heavy cargo pack.
Yeah, the one state DLC. I skipped that, and I just got the state DLC to start with myself after I believe it was Jim that sent me American Truck Sim that week.
Yeah.
I decided to skip the heavy cargo pack just because I wouldn't be able to use it for quite a while.
I don't know about Euro Truck, but in ATS you can get into it pretty quick. The American trucks in general are more powerful than the European trucks, so you can get into the heavy cargo a lot sooner.
Yeah, maybe I shouldn't have gotten it, but I'll complete that package later.
Yeah.
But yeah, they are. It's weird. They're the same game, but they're not.
Yeah, I mean, at its core, it's the same. You're doing the same thing, managing this trucking company, building up your fleet, getting your trucks, etc., etc. But because of the major differences in European style and American style trucks, the simulation aspect are two very different things. And also, actually, the differences in Europe and America. For example, everything in Europe is much closer together. So, even long distance hauls in Europe are still much shorter than America. The city designs are much more closely packed.
Mm-hmm.
The DLCs, I've got the Scandinavian DLC.
Yeah, I would say
those cities are a little bit more spread out.
The Scandinavian DLC, at least in my opinion, is the best so far. But I haven't played the Italian DLC yet. And then for Euro Truck, I'm usually at least one map DLC behind.
Yeah, but for American Truck Simulator, like, certain cities are extremely spread out with, you might having to drive an hour one direction within the same, an industry considered being in the same city. Well, an hour in-game, not a real-life hour, in order to pick up some cargo there. And the things like rest stops are a lot more spread out. Although the speed limits are a lot higher for the most part.
Doing 65 in a truck is a little scary at times.
Yeah, try doing like 80 or 85, because a couple of the interstates, I think it's in New Mexico.
Oh yeah, New Mexico,
or maybe Arizona
up there.
is 80. So
it feels like you're
like
on the edge of control.
Yeah, but the truck that I have now can do 90 hauling a trailer, and it can do over 100 if it's empty or if it's not pulling a trailer. That's scary. I turned off traffic offenses just because I didn't want to get 1,000 speeding tickets just to test it. Boy, that's scary. Even in game, it's like, oh, it's wobbling, it's tipping over. Gotta slow down. So that was fun.
Yeah, actually,
but yeah,
I put down American Truck and I went back to Euro Truck because of the trailer additions that they added in recently, where you could buy trailers.
Yeah, I'm farther along in American Truck. I've got 3 drivers. No, I've got 2 drivers in my Euro Truck game, and I've got 4 in my American Truck game. And then I've got trailers for each of them. So 4 trailers in American Truck and 2 in Euro Truck.
I can't recall if I have any drivers in American Truck. I don't think I do yet. I was trying to pay off the loan to be able to really just go all out on my first couple drivers and just build up. But in Euro Truck, I have 68 drivers, I told you?
Yeah. You said you spent like $6 million on trailers when that expansion came out.
No, I only spent 5.
Oh, only $5 million.
Yeah, I went from $9 million in the bank to 4.
I've spent like $1 million total in American Truck, and not even half that in Euro Truck.
And the thing is that that $4 million doesn't even cover half my driver base for trailers. But all the trailers are pretty much constantly in use. And it does seem like using your own trailers gives, I would say, about somewhere like a 25% boost to the profit of the load.
Yeah. I'll do it both ways. I like to vary up what I'm delivering, but I'll grab a trailer if I want to make, quick money. Because you pick a job that's going, 1,000 plus miles in American Truck, you'll get 40 to 50,000 for the delivery, plus the trailer boost that's somewhere between 10 and 20%. I think it varies, but yeah, I've seen as much as 20 and as little as 10 for similar jobs. So you can earn 60, 70, 80,000 in one delivery, maybe even more once I get some more of my skills up, because I've maxed out long distance driving.
Well, an American truck,
ADR.
An American truck, long distance hauling, at least for the time being, isn't as important because it's a smaller map for now. So in Euro Truck, because the map has all the DLCs in such a long distance, it's actually more important to have a long haul there than it is an American Truck right now.
Well, see, I don't have all of the map DLC for Euro Truck, so they're roughly, I would assume, the same distance. Maybe.
Actually, I need to go check
the Euro
that.
Truck map is a little larger, but I mean, you can drive once you get the maxed out an American Truck. You can find deliveries that are 1,500 miles or so long. If you go from like the top of California all the way to the bottom, or the most northwest corner of California down to the most southwest corner of, what is that, New Mexico? It's like 1,500 to 2,000 miles, which is what in kilometers?
Yeah, I was
1,500. That's
still trying to find a
2,400
direct comparison.
Yeah, that's 2,500 kilometers. Which, I mean, I've not done anything that far. I've only got long distance up to like 3 or 4 ranks in Euro Truck.
Yeah,
so
yeah,
I can't
Euro
even go
Truck,
that far.
Going from one side of the map to the other, for me with a maxed out driver, is something like 80 or 90,000 euros.
Yeah.
But it's also, a very long haul, obviously.
Yeah. The longest drive I've taken so far in game hours was 20 hours, 19 or 20 hours. I earned like 75,000 off of that.
Okay,
and that's when I got my last driver.
I think, the American Truck Sim map is far smaller than the Euro Truck Sim map, at least at the time of the recording. So, yeah. There's still quite a ways to go. That's even after the rescale.
Yeah.
Let's put it this way: the Scandinavian DLC is probably about the same size as the main body of the map, California, Nevada, and Arizona, with New Mexico adding another big chunk.
Yeah, although is it Oregon? Oregon, right?
Yeah.
That's coming out soon.
Yeah, that'll add another
just came
decent
out?
chunk. No, it comes out in a couple days.
Okay.
It comes out tomorrow, so it'll be yesterday on the day there's releases.
Oh, good. I'll have a new map to play this weekend, or a new portion of the map to play this weekend.
I'm guessing you're getting it on launch then.
Unless it's like too expensive, I don't know. I'd probably pay like $15 for it. I've thoroughly enjoyed my time in the game, though.
Yeah,
it's just nice and relaxing.
It's a zen game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So and having them separated helps, because I play Euro Truck on my laptop, play that at work, or sometimes like if Katie's using the office to teach her classes or whatever, I'll sit in the living room, and then I play American Truck on my desktop.
Yeah, I'm trying to find what the price of Oregon will be, or Oregon. Well, New Mexico was $12 on launch, so it'll likely be about the same.
Yeah, then I'm down for that. I'd pay $12 for that.
I would imagine the larger states would be more expensive or broken up into chunks. Because
I hope they don't do that. More expensive, fine. Chunks, please no.
Unless they do the episodic thing. You buy the season of Texas.
Yeah. But I mean, Texas, I could maybe see them breaking up Texas into like East and West Texas or something. Texas is a really big state. I mean, Texas is bigger than many countries. And then Alaska, if they ever added Alaska.
Yeah.
Alaska's about the size of, what, half the continental United States?
Yeah, it's massive, but there's also not a lot in Alaska. Yeah, a lot of the civilization is true. There on the coast. So unless you do some ice road trucking, then there's not a lot to do there.
That would be interesting. Although I think I would prefer them do the rest of the continental U.S. first.
I would rather have them do ice road trucking as its own game.
Yeah. Have they said that they were going to do that? Do the entire continental U.S.?
They said they eventually want to if interest sustains.
My interest is high in that. Like, I just want to be able to truck around where I live. Chattanooga, Atlanta, Knoxville, Nashville.
When they hit the northeast, I really expect them to do it in chunks.
Yeah.
Combined states, because you don't need Rhode Island as its own DLC. I'm sorry to the 3 people that live in Rhode Island, but your state's a little on the small side.
Yeah. Or Washington, D.C.
Technically not a state.
No, but, I mean, they could put that in as its own separate thing. Actually, it'd probably just be one city in the map, D.C.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I just want to be able to drive around the southeast. And, I mean, Atlanta is a huge city, as well as, anything in Florida.
I just had a thought.
Miami, Orlando.
I just had a bad thought.
What?
Atlanta with the in-game traffic AI.
Oh God, no! Atlanta's I have to drive through Atlanta a few times a year, and I always dread it because it's terrible.
Is it just the highway system hasn't been upgraded?
Well, part of the problem is that they're always working on it. So even though there should be 16 lanes of traffic, most of the time you have 3.
How can you be perpetually working on something and never finish it?
They just are. They always are. They start at one end and they go to the other end, and by the time they're at the other end, it's time to go start at the first end again.
Almost like the VGL rewards.
Almost. So, I mean, that road is constantly, perpetually being worked on, which slows down traffic. And there are, I don't know how many people, millions of people, and I don't think I'm not exaggerating, millions of people that drive on those highways every day. I think the word drive is a little exaggerated there. Park. That park on that highway every day. Because Atlanta's a huge city. It's got suburbs around it, all over around it. It's got some of the worst traffic in the country. Probably LA is about the only place that I would believe has worse traffic than Atlanta. Yeah, but at least both of them are in the scorching heat. Yeah. The very humid heat. But so yeah, that's Euro and American Truck. I've been playing the shit out of those games, and I intend to keep doing it. I've got little goals set for myself. I want to get all the achievements for hitting all the cities, and then getting my garage maxed out and trailers for everyone, and expanding. I'm in this game for the long haul. Sorry, that was an engine brake going off. All right. So back to you, buddy. So I got 2 more, and these should be a lot faster because I didn't put as much time into them. Dirt Rally. I don't think I've talked about this after the free weekend. I've been dabbling on this on and off since I got it in the Humble Bundle a while back. And Dirt Rally, it's one of those games that's good, but I'm handicapped to begin with. And I'm also having trouble playing the game. But I'm playing with a controller, so that's already a handicap. Because this is, they purport it to be a simulator, but I still put it in more of the arcadey sim, but just more on the sim side because there's just so many knobs to turn in car management and car setups. But you could still have things where you bump the curb and it does this weird bounce, tumbles down the road for a few hundred feet. Then you're able to just drive off like nothing happened. But there's a few things in this that's really kind of irritated me. One is the entire rallycross section. The game career mode, you progress through different championships. And pretty much the only difference between the early championships and the later ones is just how much margin of error you have to deal with the computer's drivers, because there's no difficulty settings in this game whatsoever, short of just setting the game's overall assists, your ABS, your car stability, that sort of thing, which they hid very, very deep in the settings to the point where I didn't even think they had it at first.
until I started digging for it because people were talking. Well, if you're going to play with a controller, just turn up the ABS a little bit and make the car a little bit more stable in the settings. Where? Oh, it's not in those settings. It's in these other settings. Fine. Okay. Well, finally get it where the game is a little bit playable. And the Rallycross is frustrating on a couple aspects. In the previous dirt games, the drivers were not perfect. They were aggressive with both you and each other. And they could make mistakes. They could screw up. They could take a turn a little too hot and slam into the wall. They could hit a jump wrong and end up tumbling a massive twisted metal going down the highway. But in this, all the drivers in the Rallycross, even in the early championships, are absolutely perfect drivers. Plus, they're in upgraded cars compared to you. As you drive, you unlock different upgrades for your cars to make them essentially just better versions for pretty much free. And in order to unlock those upgrades, you have to drive a certain distance. And if you restart a championship, you lose the distance that you already gained on that car. Or I should say you restart a race. So you have this very, very frustrating treadmill while you're driving against absolutely perfect drivers in supercars compared to the hunk and junk you're driving. And it's just very, very frustrating. On top of that, the automatic transmission in this game fucking sucks. And trying to play with a controller, you're already on the edge of instability to begin with. Maybe this is just my inexperience with a more simulation style racer. But no matter what I do, the car always feels very squirrely. And that's just because I have so little range between no steering and full on steering. So it's like I'm just grabbing the wheel and yanking. There's no finesse. Even with all the assists turned way up, which also, mind you, slows the car down. So you're seeing a sort of, doubling up on the fuck you factor here. And it's really taken the fun out of a mode that I've enjoyed in the previous dirt games. Now, granted, the rally section, it's a lot more fun to me. I do enjoy my rally driving, but in that you don't even see the AI cars, which is a little odd to me. They're just kind of running in the background, they're a simulation. Which maybe that's where the simulation aspect of this comes in. They're just simulating the other cars in that mode, huh?
Hi-yo.
But at least in the early championships, there's a wide spread between first place and last place in times. So it's not as frustrating, but there's still the frustration factor of not having the control that I would like, because even turning up all the assists, everything still feels so jittery and on that edge of control, but losing the speed because of it. And the automatic transmission, which I can't really divert the attention I need for a manual transmission because I don't have that muscle memory for it. I can't divert the attention, so I'm losing more speed there. So I'm having to settle for further and further and further down the pack until I build up the car to even have a chance of getting in the podium positions. Not even winning, I might add, because hell, the winning times on each stage is like 30 seconds to a minute ahead of me, and it's in a championship, at least in my position on the career mode, is 4 stages. So, by the time I'm at the end of the career, the winning driver is like a full stage ahead of me. Which is something else, is that in the career mode, the rally mode is set up into pairs, at least in the early careers, where it's 4 stages, but you drive 2 back to back, all right? And in between, you have essentially a pit stop where you could repair your car and change the setup a little bit. Well, when you're changing the setup and trying to tune in your car, you could take it on a shakedown, practice the track. But, you could only practice on the first quarter of the first stage in that set. So everything beyond that, you're essentially sight reading the entire race. And it's like trying to sight read Flight of the fucking Bumblebee at times, because the co-driver will sometimes spout off a half a dozen different instructions for upcoming turns. And I'm swear, it's just, it's another just case of utter frustration. Which I realize, this is not the driving game that I'm used to. This is not the genre. I'm used to more of an arcadey side of things. But a sim game that doesn't allow you to practice the tracks, they just throw you in? That doesn't seem very right to me. Does it to you?
Yeah, no, every sim game I've ever played will let you practice the track beforehand.
Yeah, the only way to
Forza
practice
does
it is,
Gran Turismo does
to go into a sandbox mode and not, or a quick race mode instead of the actual career mode. Which the career mode, it limits the amount of shakedowns that you can do, which makes sense. But you can't even do the full. You can't even do the full first stage.
Yeah.
So the first time I tried the championship, I mistakenly thought, well, it's the shakedown is only letting me do this much. Maybe it's shorter races for the first part, for the first few careers, and then they expand it out. No. I tuned for that first part, and then I hit the next part, and then I realized I'm not even I'm hitting a quarter of the way through the first section. And then it puts me on a second track that I haven't even considered, because it was not listed as connected to this. It was its own separate entry. So, yeah, it caught me completely off guard there. It's just, I guess, another case of trying to be two different things at once.
Yeah, maybe so. I don't know.
I mean, if you put enough time into it, Dirt Rally is a good racer. But it requires a lot more memorization than just utter practice because of that sight reading problem. But last game?
Indeed, last game.
Okay, so the last game on my list is the one I played the least out of my list. But it's also a lesson on how to not retain me as a player. Let It Die. And boy, did I let it. Let It Die is, a Suda 51 game, so things get a little weird in this, to say the least.
Right.
I didn't get far enough to really understand any of the story. To be honest, I never got past the tutorial, and I'll get into why, but let's just put it this way. Death has gotten a lot more annoying since I last seen him in Manual Samuel.
Okay.
At least he's learned how to ride his damn skateboard, though. No, I'm not joking. It's another skating death. Why is this a thing?
Did death in what was it? Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey? Did the Grim Reaper skate in that?
To be honest, I don't recall. I'm not sure if I've ever seen that one.
Yeah, it was the sequel.
But this is pretty much every weird thing you can think about Japan, the game. All right. Death calls you senpai constantly, breaking the fourth wall, skating around. But this is a roguelite meets Dark Souls. All right. With character progression, you die, you are able to reclaim your stuff. I think. Like I said, I didn't get past the tutorial because. Well, let's see. First, I booted up the game, and I decided to try out mouse and keyboard. Well, I realized things were going to go downhill when I was having trouble getting past the EULA. To give you an idea that this is a bad port for controls, the EULA, to scroll down it, you move the mouse. It's bound essentially to the right analog stick.
I don't like this already.
And then I had to use the arrow buttons to select accept.
Yep.
I was very close to uninstalling then and there.
Yep. I don't like any of this.
So the game zooms in on this subway full of dudes and ladies that you select your character, and they get zapped with your whatever, and you get in control over them. And it goes through the tutorial. Death rides up on a skateboard, annoys the ever living fuck out of you. Pretty much standard for Suda 51, right?
Yep.
Well, I'm going through the tutorial, doing all right in the very beginning. Then it starts telling me concepts that it's using button prompts from a PlayStation controller for. Mind you, my controller was not turned on at the time. So the computer wasn't seeing any controllers attached. But it was still giving me button prompts that I couldn't translate because it was telling me, oh, press triangle to do this. I stopped, look at the keyboard. I don't see
Which one of
triangle.
these is triangle?
I can spell triangle. Alright, fine. Grab the controller, turn it on. Try to move. It doesn't allow switching controls mid-game. Well, fuck. Quit out. Restart with the controller turned on. And it puts me back at the beginning of the tutorial. Alright. So, okay, let's do this again. I wasn't too far in the tutorial. Start just skipping all the cutscenes with death, which thankfully they let you do that. So, that's a small mercy. And I quickly realized that even in the tutorial, the roguelike elements are there. And I start having trouble when they put me up against a guy that has a spear of some degree. It's post-apocalyptic, so there's all the makeshift weapons just out of stuff like people using circular saws for weapons, that sort of thing. The game has it where the stamina, at least on your starting character, because from what I can understand, as you level up and gain more money, you essentially buy a new tier of starting characters to have a better overall stat. All right, or starting stats, plus on top of all the raincoats and traffic cones that you could wear, that sort of thing. And no, I'm not joking about that.
Nice. Okay.
So the starting character could roll about 3 times before they essentially have a heart attack and are just stuck there because they've used too much stamina and their heart is beating too fast. And I'm up against a guy with a spear, and the stamina is also used for attacks. So you can imagine how much fun that was. So I wrestle my way through the game, or through the tutorial, and I get to a point where mid cutscene death, forced death, which makes me wonder why the fuck I even bothered to begin with. And Death is talking about how you've been playing Let It Die. It's it's a video game inside the video game. You're like in the Purgatory arcade, it seems. And he says, here, let me reset it for you. And it gives me an option to exit game. All right, fine. I'm through the tutorial. Great. Oh, I'm getting a little bit hungry. I'm going to go turn this off and go eat dinner and come back. Grab dinner, come back to play a little bit more, to try it out, to get a feel for it, to see if I wanted to play it some more. It puts me back at the fucking beginning of the tutorial after it gives me an option to exit.
Okay.
And then I said, fuck you, and I uninstalled. No, it put out a main menu and had an exit screen. It wasn't all F4 or anything. It literally had exit game there. So I let it die.
Well, there you go, I guess.
Yeah, a lesson on how not to retain me as a player. Have absolutely horrid control configuration. I mean, it was kind of playable on a mouse and keyboard until they started throwing controls at me that they wouldn't bother me telling me the proper buttons for. Let's put it this way. I think the pause menu... Well, I shouldn't say pause menu because it's online Dark Souls. So there, of course, Dark Souls anyway doesn't have proper pause. It brings up the menu. It took me ages to find that I think it was T or F or something, which was just weird. To be able to swap out stuff, to be able to swap out my gear, I think I had to go to the arrow keys to do that. It's just obviously not designed for mouse and keyboard. And when I came back with the proper control scheme, it uses a left-right melee system, so you're able to put different weapons in each hand to try to counteract enemy armor, because there's like 6 or 7 different damage types. Of course there is, right? And different ones have different strengths and weaknesses, and you're able to do attacks are bound to the left and right triggers to try to do a combo with the 2 weapons. But like I said, that eats up a lot of stamina, and then if you have to dodge roll out, you end up having to really, really, really pace yourself. And I already saw where the grind was going with this, and after it putting me through the tutorial now for the 4th time, no, or sorry, for the 3rd time, I should say. No, I had enough.
Yeah. Don't blame me there. That sounds terrible.
Yeah, the fact, don't give me an option to exit the game if it's going to make me go through the tutorial again. I think that's a fair thing to say, right?
Yeah, I agree. Alrighty. Well, that's all the games we played this week.
Yeah.
Or this last 2 weeks or 3 weeks or whatever. Yeah.
Sort of played?
Something like that. So, moving on then to the news. And we've got an amalgamation of 3 news topics that we're calling Workers' Comp, a State of the Gaming Industry. But these are 3 news articles that are related to stuff going on in the gaming industry. There's some workers that complaining on Twitter about the way that they're treated by the industry, which I'm not saying that to make fun of them or whatever. I just, I said that and I thought, my tone feels a little sarcastic or whatever. I'm not being sarcastic. Good for them for complaining about their industry and wanting change. And then over the last year, there's an article that's talking about how 1,000 jobs have been lost in studio closures over the past year. And then the last one is a very long article.
Yeah, I would say editorial.
Sort of like an editorial, yeah. Discussing how developers shouldn't make indie games and how we shouldn't support indie game developers.
Yeah,
so we thought that would be...
Yeah, it's kind of contradictory whenever we're seeing 1,000 jobs lost and someone saying, oh, you should go work for a studio.
Yeah, let's just go ahead and start with that one, because it's the big one. It's bigger than the other 2 articles combined.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's...
One of the writers at gamesindustry.biz put this together. Mm-hmm. And it's a rather long... I clicked on the wrong article.
Well, the fall director, John Warner, rethinks the ethics of guiding aspiring developers without acknowledging some harsh realities.
Yeah, and this is a rather lengthy article with, was it 4 or 5 major points that he expands on as he goes, discussing the sort of realities of the industry and how the industry is getting more and more difficult to get into as an indie developer, citing some things, I'm just sort of going to very in a nutshell this, citing some things about with Steam and how many indie games come out on Steam. You're basically just sort of taking a big risk, putting yourself out there in that huge bundle of mixed, garbage with the occasional hidden gem and stuff like that. It's expensive and time consuming, very stressful. Sometimes people spend too much time going to school programs or schooling programs, but how they need to specialize in something instead of taking a generalist approach, and a few other things along those lines. And he's saying, you should go work for a studio. But then there's all this other stuff going on in the industry about major studio closures within the last year, and the studios that are doing well, most of them treat their employees like garbage, considered more of a commodity than a person at a lot of companies. And some of the developers are saying that, like, they feel like they're treated like a commodity to be bought and sold, as opposed to a human being who's spent a lot of time honing their craft. But going through this article, really what he's saying is that, at least what the impression I got from it, was that being an indie gamer, or not indie gamer, an indie game designer is a lot like being a small business owner and like opening or starting a small business. Just, I do have some personal connection to that. Like, my dad has his own business, and I worked in it when I was a kid and a teenager. And I have some memories of like some hardships and stuff whenever like the economy was down, or there was a major shift to online storefronts, and how that change was difficult for my dad and his business and stuff. And so, you know, I do see that, and maybe it's different in different cultures, but as an American, I'm just sitting here going, I mean, that's kind of what, one of the things that we're like part of the American dream, like having your own business and being an entrepreneur, and you know, the whole idea of like, I can get rich on my own here in America, which I know like realistically is pretty much bullshit at this point, but that ideal still exists. And plenty of small businesses fail all the time. Not just, you know, these individual entrepreneurial ventures, but on top of that, plenty of big businesses fall or go on hardships as well. I mean, jumping back over to game studios, I mean, we just talked last time about Telltale and how they are effectively shutting down, and they're down to just 25 employees to wrap up their last couple of projects and meet shareholder expectations or whatever. And they were a huge, well, not huge, but a very large, successful company, you know, with several hundred employees. And then Boss Key Games in the same situation, Cliffy B's company, how it shut down after making a few games, or two games. And how it had, I don't know how many employees Boss Key had, but I think it was around 100 employees.
According to this, 60.
Oh, 60. Okay. I mean, that's considered a small business level. You know, that's like somewhere between that small and the first tiny steps of like a medium business. But still, I mean, that's a pretty good sized company. Like, stuff like that runs all the time in smaller places, you know, more regional locales, or certain businesses that maybe don't need to have a big storefront.
Well, it's not even just you know, mismanagement like Cliffy B had and Telltale. Another example, just from pulling from the list of the 1,000 jobs lost, Gazillion Entertainment was forced to close down because Marvel ended their partnership with the studio, and that was 200 jobs. Yeah, they did nothing wrong. They were in a contractual obligation to Marvel, and Marvel pulled the plug, and that was the end of it. Granted, you could say that they should had some sort of side project going, but at the same time, you know, they were getting a steady paycheck. So, you know, it's some of column A, some of column B there, and a lot of this, the original editorial that kind of sparked all of this, is saying, well, you should just work for the big companies because trying to play the indie game is playing the lottery. But I think the message here is lost. I think what really should have been said by "It's time we stopped encouraging indies" is, I think the proper title for this was, I think it's time we stopped encouraging indies to bet the farm. I think if you went into an indie game intelligently, or do it for the art and not expect to be the next Minecraft, to be even the next Stardew Valley, or Banished, or, you know, all these small indie games that got a cult following, but do it because it's a project that you wanted to do. Go into it expecting to make nothing, and that's it. Then it's a lot more intelligent to say that, you know, it's not that big a deal. It was my time. I wanted to get this pet project out. I was able to do it. It didn't sell, but it exists. and maybe down the road someone will find it. But
Yeah.
betting the farm on your project, which we have seen success stories. Cuphead is a good example of that, where they mortgaged their house and they bet everything on Cuphead. And the gamble paid off for them. They're a very successful studio now. They're putting out DLC, and imagine that there's going to be more in the future from them. But that is a huge gamble that they maybe shouldn't have done in hindsight. Hindsight says that it paid off, but it was just as easy to lose it all. Because Cuphead, in essence, isn't a unique game outside of its art style. It's a boss rush platformer with some platforming elements. But what made Cuphead so appealing was that it took a unique turn of things, and it was able to grab the attention of the gaming press. If it did not grab that attention, it would have either fallen into obscurity or never came out to begin with.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I mean, a lot of small businesses too, when you start those, the people that do go all in, bet everything, mortgage their house or whatever, that sort of strategy usually only pays out one of two ways. Either your business ends up being wildly successful, or you go bankrupt.
And the problem is you don't hear about the people that go bankrupt. So you have that false sense of security. Well, I've seen so many people talk about betting the farm and the roulette wheel coming up with the proper number. But you don't hear about the thousands and thousands of people that lost everything because they bet too hard.
Yeah. And that makes sense for small business too, as well as game. Like, you have this, essentially you start working out of your garage on the side. It's that equivalent of starting a business in your garage on the weekends and on nights, and you build that into something. And then once that is something, then you move over to it from whatever it is that you were doing. And I think of some indie game success stories that have done that, like, oh shit, it just left me. The farming game on Steam, Stardew Valley. Wasn't that one of those? It was a passion project he worked on for a couple of years.
I remember seeing Stardew Valley years and years ago. And at the time, they only had 2 of the seasons in play. It wasn't available for sale. It was just the site showing off, what they're planning on doing. And I forgot about it for ages until it started making the rounds when it was coming up for release. I mean, that's its own little passion project, but he worked on it bits and pieces here and there. Or you have kind of odd ones that passion projects that's been worked on for years and years that the community supports. Let's pick one almost at random. How about our current Game Club game?
Yep.
Dwarf Fortress is a passion project that's been worked on for a decade. That is community funded and is available for free. And because it's funded by the community, the developer is able to work full time on it. But it's something that he went into not expecting to happen. It was just a passion project to toy around with. He wanted to make essentially a fantasy world generator, and things kind of snowballed.
Yeah. I didn't really. Is he supported on Patreon?
He's supported on Patreon and direct donations.
Okay.
You're looking up how much?
I'm looking it up right now.
Well, the better place is actually the main blog, because at the beginning of each month, he does a State of the Fortress post. So there should be one up now.
Oh, wow. $5,900 a month. 60 grand a year to develop Dwarf Fortress.
Well, here's the fun with numbers for the last 5 months. In September, he got total donations $7,595.17. In August, he got $7,741.22. In July, he got $8,019.09. In June, he got $7,485.99. And in May, he got $7,761.55.
So basically, these two brothers?
Yeah.
are making
there's one that's
70 to 80 grand a year.
Yeah, there's essentially one that's the main programmer and one that's kind of like the idea guy and kind of bug tests and everything else. Kind of crazy.
I mean, hey, good for them. They've been working on this for a long time. Good for them. I would love to have something that I can, work on as a passion project that turns into a full-time career like that. I mean, I love the work that I do. I'm not saying like I want to quit my job and go all in on
it sounds like you were saying that.
But if I ever did start doing something like this, I would love to turn a hobby like that into a full-time career. I mean, that's pretty good money just about anywhere in the United States. The big cities,
and
that's
he lives, I believe,
sort of
in
median
Virginia.
income wherever, but yeah, so I mean, they're making probably, even if they split it in half, 35 to 40 grand per brother per year. I mean, that's
Jared. In the last 5 months,
What?
I just did the quick math. Just over $38,000.
Yeah, but I'm saying like, $70,000 or $80,000 for the whole year. They split it in half, so that's them getting 35 to 40 grand each a year.
And also,
taxes and stuff would take some of that.
Here's the thing: is that these are just normal numbers in between versions. When a new version comes out, which is about once every year to 2 years, on a version release month, he'll make 10 to 15,000 that month.
Nice, good for them. You go, Tarn and Zach Adams.
Also known
you guys,
as Toady One is the main guy. Toady One the Great on the forums.
Yeah. But
that's another example of a passion project just snowballing, which kind of flies in the face of this, where they're talking about not being able to make it, but that's not the point of the passion project. So should we just go down this point by point?
Sure, if you want to.
Okay.
Do that real quick.
Point one is, what makes you think that you could be an indie if you can't get a job? I mean, that feels a little contradictory, doesn't it, compared to working in the industry, where the industry staff is talking, which is the industry staff protest working conditions with Twitter Storm, where one of the first tweets on here is, if you want to work in the industry that puts the well-being of game developers in the forefront, before shareholders, before clients, before management, before public image, before established practices, before corporate culture, before everything else, go ahead. Yeah, that kind of makes you want to work for a studio, doesn't it? There's just so much talk about crunch time, about toxic behavior in the corporate culture, about just letting people go when they're done on a project and not retaining their talent. Kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't, huh?
Yeah.
And I love that they bring up the Dunning-Kruger effect for this as well. It makes me think that he's suffering from the tall end of it, huh?
Yeah. But point number 2, most successful indies have extensive experience in the games industry.
Which I'm going to go back to something I used to do ages and ages ago was right. And there was this general rule. It's in pretty much any passion project thing. Your first few projects usually suck. And that's okay. It allows you to gain the experience and to get better. So what if the most successful indie developers have extensive experience in the games industry? It allows you to cut your teeth. It allows you to make mistakes. It allows you to improve as a designer, as a coder, as an artist, depending on what you're doing in the actual project. There's nothing wrong with failure if you learn from it, and it doesn't cost you everything. Which comes back right around to what we talked about before. Don't bet the fucking farm on a passion project becoming the next Minecraft. Anything to say there?
No, I mean, you got it. Right on, man. Right on.
Right on, man.
See, number 3, now is not the time to express your high-level direction ideas. Be patient. People who tell you otherwise are trying to take your money.
Which, that seems a little odd, because he's, first of all, talking about getting a job in the game industry with essentially a AAA studio or something. So you want to wait until you get a job in the studio and then give your big ideas and then not have any control over them whatsoever. They become the property of that studio.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't really have anything to say about that either.
Yeah. It feels like he's wanting to farm the industry for indie talent for the big studios instead of everything else, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's how it comes across. I agree with that. And he says number 4.
Well, I was just going to say that I would say indies are actually probably the better place to express your high-level direction ideas, because indies are allowed to make mistakes, like I just said in point 2. A big, even AA to AAA games, even in the lower end of those, the AA, they're not going to take major risks. They will be more risky, but if you have something completely off the wall, a completely different direction, odds are, if your idea even sees the light of day, it'll be neutered. It'll be watered down. Indie is allowed to be more risky. I mean, hell, going back to Cuphead, which I realize is a bad example because they bet the farm, but do you think any major studio would have hand animated their boss rush platformer?
Nope. Not a chance in hell.
Yeah, Cuphead,
they would see that as wasteful.
Yeah, Cuphead is hand animated. Granted, they did use digital animation techniques, but it's hand animated.
Yeah.
No way they would have done that.
Okay. Point number 4, school is great, but be careful with generalist programs. And this one, to some extent, I kind of agree with, because schools are in it to make money. So, they're going to some extent, try and sell you their program. But on the other hand, getting a general sort of base level of experience at something, I think is a good thing. You get the general education first, get a little bit of everything, decide what you want to specialize in, and then specialize in it. But you've got that repertoire of skills to, again, test, improve, fail a few times, maybe have a few minor successes, figure out what works for you. I'm all for people being more educated and knowledgeable in lots of different areas. And even if that's specialized to a field like game design, there's still a whole bunch of different aspects within that field to be eclectic with. So I completely disagree with this point, although I see the point he's trying to make about schools. Just wanting money.
General education shouldn't be your only education. There should be some specialization there.
Right. But I do think it's good to have a general education as well. That can help you.
It should be the foundation
in the long run
on which you build.
Right. And then the 5th point he says is, finally, please don't let this article crush you.
Oh, don't worry, we won't.
Yeah, we won't. But also, it was pretty depressing, dude. And I mean, he is entitled to his opinion. His experiences have led him to believe this. And I can't quite fault his logic based on his own personal experience. But my personal experience with similar ideas and concepts, I come to a different conclusion from him, or than him. But that's okay. This isn't an area, I don't think, where that we have to be like, this is the right way and this is the wrong way. If this makes some people think, well, I don't completely agree with this guy, but maybe I should dial it back a little bit and not mortgage my house or take out that second loan or whatever to do a thing, I don't think that's not necessarily a bad idea.
The credit card that has 30% annual percentage rate, that's good enough to finance this.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
The tune of several $1,000s.
Yeah. But
yeah, I just thought these 3 articles kind of came together rather nicely in a general thing, a general topic, almost general topic. But yeah, I'm just looking at the Ask a Game Worker and just seeing them talk about working in the industry without being their own boss. And it makes me really support the idea of game developers unionizing. Granted, I already kind of supported that.
Oh yeah, I support that. I did support that. I still support that. I think we need way more unions in way more industries than we have, particularly in the United States. But
I mean, the idea that it's acceptable for absolutely absurd crunch time in game development.
Yeah,
that is becoming an industry
okay.
norm just seems wrong. Granted, I'm looking at this from the outside, and I'm not a shareholder.
Yeah, because they would just want to maximize their profits, and that's a way to do it. But no, mandatory overtime without pay and crunch times, that's all bad.
Yeah, you're just burning
We've been
your
down this
talent.
road before, though.
Yeah, I mean, we're down this road with Telltale. So, yeah, I just thought it was an interesting article. I saw this and saw just how long it was and started reading it and reading and it was disagreeing more and more, and thought it was a good discussion topic because we didn't really have any major news articles to grab a hold of this week. Well, we had one, but I think someone would have blown a gasket on it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or should I say someone's?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, to tease it, a certain lawsuit against California.
Yeah. Maybe we'll talk about that next week.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe not. I don't know. We'll see. I'm sure the story will have developed some since then. But yeah. Anyways, time to move on to the... Did we have anything for Community Corner?
Well,
or
we had...
do we just want to go straight to Discovery Queue?
We did have Kyle sending us coded messages. Either that or a snake has gotten loose and it's just dancing across the keyboard. Just a bunch of weird tweets. Which, yes, Kyle, I realize those are encrypted, and you sent us the encryption key. But I've always tried to avoid clicking links from strange people, and let's be honest, you're kind of strange. Plus, I mean, you're taking the initiative to encrypt the tweet. So who am I to talk about the contents on a podcast like this, right? Doesn't that kind of defeat the purpose?
Yeah, for security purposes, we have to keep it a secret.
Yeah, but if you wish to send us unencrypted tweets, you could do so. BGL Podcast on the Twitter, or email us, hopefully unencrypted stuff that we don't have to puzzle what the hell. VGLpodcast@gmail.com.
Indeed. So, it's been a couple of weeks, but let's head on over to Doobly-Doo with our Discovery Queue.
And I'm getting something interesting right off the bat.
Me too! You talked first, though, so you can go first.
Yeah, here, let me drop a link here, because a Scroll of Taiwu, it's a...
Taiwu?
Gesundheit. It has kanji in front of it. But it is an indie game based on Chinese mythology, where you play a successor of Taiwu in a mythical universe, defeating your greatest enemy under the effort of sacrifice of many generations. So a management sandbox game. And it's a little hard to understand because most of this is in, I believe, Chinese based on this. And I just scrolled down further because and it says English language is not supported. That's disappointing.
Well, maybe it will be at some point, or a translation will be released.
Yeah,
some kind of
see, I was at the very top of the page and I saw the early access. And to be fair, just because a game has kanji in it doesn't mean that it doesn't support English, because Let It Die's all their screenshots is in Japanese, but it supports English.
Yeah.
But maybe I should have... Why is this giving me games that don't support English? I don't know. That's weird. But yeah, interesting title. Hopefully they translate it. Anyway, you're up.
Yep. So the first game on my list, Vox Machina. It is a mech game.
Oh boy.
Strap yourself into the cockpit of a robot 7 times taller than a Tyrannosaurus Rex and prepare to do battle. in Vox Machina, the ultimate giant robot combat action simulator for both VR and standard screens. So, yep, mechs. I like mechs. I will definitely be checking this out. I just went and requested a key on Keymailer, because if I can get it there, why not? But no idea if it's gonna be good or not. But it looks like a slightly more cartoonish looking version of MechWarrior. But it does appear to have like the full cockpit simulation and everything. So maybe it is more of a air quotes realistic or more simulatory type of mech game. But you know, the screenshots could be lying. So we will just have to see.
Well, my second game on my list is also a very interesting game. And hey, it's actually in English, so bonus points. Pathfinder Kingmaker. This is a CRPG, so think sort of Divinity Original Sin-esque. Isometric, so, you know, that pretty much just lost Jared immediately.
Actually, I've played Pathfinder, the tabletop game.
Well, this is the computer version of it. Did you know they were coming out with one?
I did not.
Well, now you do. I mean, if you played Pathfinder, this is pretty much what you would expect.
Yeah.
Very deep RPG from the sounds of it. It looks like it's getting fairly decent reviews. There are people downvoting it, but it sounds like it's there's a bit of RNG that's hitting some people, and it's also very difficult. But yep, CRPG. So that's, you know, kind of expected, to be perfectly honest.
Oh, holy cool. Okay, sorry. I've got my next game.
Well, go ahead. I'm pretty much wrapped up.
All right, I'm bringing the link over right now. This game is called Nimbatus, the Space Drone Constructor.
That's actually going to be my Sunday sampler this week.
I saw this game on Reddit. Like someone would be like, "Hey, check out this game I just created as part of my." Speaking of indie developers in school and stuff, it's like, check out this game I just put together, you know, for my school, and there were thousands of people being like, "That looks amazing. I want to buy that." And so they said that they were going to develop it farther, and when it was ready,
I've actually had this in my
release
library for ages, but I wanted to wait till it was closer to release.
Oh, I got a key for it on Keymailer. This makes me so happy. Oh, I might be playing that this week. We'll see. I do have a lot of Euro Truck to get through, but
and you also have some Dwarf Fortress,
American Truck. And I do need to play Dwarf Fortress too. I got it set up and got my first world simulated, but I haven't.
Yeah, it takes a while, doesn't it?
Yet. It does.
But you'll be able to do several games on that world. But speaking of worlds, I got Life is Strange 2.
Nice.
I mean, what do we have to really say about this? Episodic game from Don't Nod. Who we've enjoyed all their episodic stuff so far. So, yeah, I'm expecting to play this at some point. It's in the same universe as the original Life is Strange. And this sounds more like it's a road trip than anything else, at least in the first episode. Only the first episode is out right now, so it's hard to say exactly what's going on. Right now, they're selling the first episode and also a complete season bundle as well. So, and it's a bit more expensive than the original Life is Strange, isn't it?
It's a bit more what?
More expensive. I'm looking at this. The bundle is right at $40. I thought Life is Strange was $30.
Life is Strange offered the first episode free, and then I think it was $35 or $40 for the other 4 episodes.
Yeah.
It's gotten cheaper over time, but I think when it was brand new, it was $40.
Yeah, but it looks like it's going to be a very interesting story. But I'm about the worst person for episodic games. I just wait till they're fully released.
Same. I don't want to play them episodically. Oh, hey, I got Life is Strange 2 also. But I also had some garbage while you were talking.
Well, I got my next game is also a really good one. I've only skipped one so far. Total War 3 Kingdoms. Set in the Three Kingdoms era. This is China. I was wanting to make sure. So Chinese Total War game. I mean, You played one Total War game. I think you already know what to expect with this. This is just going to be... I believe this is a smaller scope than the other mainstay Total War games. This doesn't release till next March, though, so this may be a bigger game, though. I'm not exactly certain on that.
Yeah, I'm through my queue. How many do you have
I
left
have
on your
7
queue?
remaining. Do you want to do a second one?
All right. Yeah, I'll go ahead and run a second one up. I
but
had
yeah,
a lot of trash.
Yeah, I think I prefer Total War whenever they're more melee and archer focused instead of going to artillery. Yeah, a lot more personal combat.
Yeah.
It just comes down to the AI not be able to handle ranged combat as well. That looks interesting, but I think I'll skip it. And I'll skip that.
All right, here we go.
Oh no.
Lucy got problems. Nudity, sexual content, anime, visual novel. Release date September 28th. So this probably has
Full on nudity.
some of them full frontal nudity.
I mean, Steam has gotten a lot more racy lately.
Lucy got problems. That's a bad title. It's got like some anime forest fairies and stuff in it. I mean,
I gotta see this.
what do you
Hang on.
expect?
I got an interesting one coming up. Hang on, but I want to see this.
Is that like just like a little bit of vagina in the screenshot? Is it? Where'd you go, vagina picture? I don't know.
Well, that's a camel toe,
I don't-
definitely.
That's definitely camel toe. I don't think it's a vagina. Add to wish list.
Well,
And it's got a free demo.
well, let's put it this way: Patch 1, upcoming 18 plus free DLC, according to the news. So
Nice.
there you go.
Huh. Interesting. 19-4. N-I-T-E team. And then the number 4.
But
19-4 is a military hacking simulation game.
you got your next one.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm setting up my next one as well.
Yeah. It looks... I don't know. Looks like it was designed on the Unity, that's for sure. But,
I mean, that's not a bad thing, but
no, not necessarily. But I can clearly tell, like, from the menus and the way that this looks. But I mean, it looks like you're running missions for the military as a hacker.
interesting. I mean, that could be.
It's supposed to be realistic hacking scenarios.
I mean, there's been some good hacking games. There's been some bad ones.
Yeah, it also has a demo. Wow.
Yeah, demos are coming back, it seems. So I got Breathedge. This is a open world survival, but you're in space, and you're trying to go through wreckages. I can't tell if wreckages of ships or it's the same ship, and you're just going through different parts of it. But it's an interesting idea. There's been a few of these popping up recently. Just space sim survival games. And I have to say, it actually looks pretty good graphically. It captures kind of the beauty of space.
Yeah. What is this?
So yeah, it's space survival. It's in early access though. Let's see. They're saying they're expecting at least a year and a half in early access. Oh god, that's an absolutely trash driving game. Oh, and I got my last one on my last entry. Do you have one?
No.
All right.
Not
Well,
yet.
I got Parkasaurus, which
I think I've had that one before.
yeah, I think you may have put this in your queue before, but I'm putting it in mine because why the hell not? At this
Go
point.
for it.
Dinosaur theme park tycoon game. Very, very, very colorful, almost eye raping level. But yeah, if it's better than Jurassic World Evolution, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, nothing wrong against having a sandbox dinosaur park, but don't advertise it as a business sim, right?
Yeah.
Plus, you could have hats. Granted, I don't think the hats come out of loot boxes, so that really diminishes the profitability of the game. But still.
So my last game, I think, is worth mentioning. Infinity Racer. Do you remember the game Chase the Sun? Did you like that game? Well, here's more of that. This is literally what that is Chase the Sun. Except with a different looking ship and a slightly different aesthetic.
And it's also an asset flip of a Unity game.
Oh, I've not seen that then. What's an asset flip of?
It's an asset flip of X Racer. I follow a couple of curators that follow asset flips and warn people about them.
Yeah.
This is an asset flip of a Unity store asset for $70.
Oh, yep, here it is. Steam Curator, Sentinels of the Store, asset flip of X Racer.
Yeah, if you click on it,
I'm gonna follow this curator.
Yeah, if you click on it, it shows you exactly that game. I mean, there's one thing about using pre-made assets in a game. Granted, you have to do it carefully, otherwise it makes your game utterly bland looking, and your screenshots of it fall into just it could be any game, like PUBG. But taking a template, game template, wholesale and selling it, no.
Yeah. Well, cool. I just followed that curator. That would be a good one to follow. But yeah, that's my second discovery queue. So it looks like it took me, 2 to come up with your 1. But that's the way it goes.
I have to admit, I had some good quality.
Games total. You did. I had a couple of good ones. But a couple of bad ones. But yeah, that is that. Which means it's time to move on to the portion of the podcast where I go first and tell you where to find my stuff if you're new here. If you want to find me on the YouTubes, you can do so by searching for Gaming Psychologist. You can find our Spin Tires videos, the podcast episodes, and occasionally something else, but I typically only do things that I have time for and that I enjoy. And usually that's just whatever I'm doing with my co-host and the podcast itself.
Make it sound so dirty.
If you want to follow me on Twitter, where you can see all the things that I do tweet, you can do so by following me at JMA4707. Had a couple of recent tweets about Euro Truck and being bored at work. It was a slow day today, so I played Euro Truck at work for a while. And with my fidget spinner that I have there with some big rubber bands on it, those wristbands, makes it heavier, but one of them's rainbow colored, and it gives it this really cool, almost psychedelic effect. It's neat. And then I don't really do much over on Twitch anymore. But if you do want to see the people from the community who stream all in one place, or maybe have an easy way to find their channels, because I follow and rehost all of them, you can do so by going to twitch.tv/jarthur4707. And then lastly, if you want to be my friend on Steam, you can do so by sending a friend request to jarthur4707. I accept all of those friend requests from the lovely people. It's been a little bit since I've gotten any new friend requests from people. Don't be shy. I don't bite
hard
much, or unless you're having sex with me. But that's another thing for another time.
Poor Katie. And if you wish to let them know exactly what episode of the podcast you're coming from, the password for this week is iguana.
Nice.
Iguana. Just one of my random words, since there wasn't anything that really grabbed me this week to use. So, for me, things are kind of stable for 2 of the series. RimWorld's still ongoing. I actually want to get another recording session in for Spin Tires, try to get a little bit more in the backlog because we only are 1 week behind where we're actually recording now, or thereabouts. I am releasing my episodes of Mud Runner a little bit late right now. I actually need to go post my latest one because my render kind of screwed up overnight. And I had a completely blank episode. And, it had the audio, but it didn't have any visual. So I was noticing, that's uploading a little fast. Then I noticed the file size and thought, something's wrong. So I had to re-render it today. Which ended up taking up a lot more time. But I'll release that once we're done here. I haven't gotten around to doing the other series, though, that I'm planning on. I'll get to that. And I haven't streamed much on Twitch this past week because I've been touring around with a project over there. And also replacing my placeholder assets with more placeholder assets. Because life, like George Carlin said, life is a series of dogs. Well, a YouTube channel or Twitch channel is just a series of placeholder assets, one replacing the other, right?
Yes, I think.
But yeah, I am planning on. I'm gonna try to do at least some of my Dwarf Fortress stuff on Twitch, so people go to see what the hell, and see someone that. Okay, I can't say competent. Knows just enough to be dangerous. How about that? Well, to be fair, dangerous in that game is a very low bar. But yeah, I'll do some of Dwarf Fortress. I've been getting it set up so I could actually broadcast that, which I've gotten it where it's capturing Dwarf Fortress properly. I can't get it to get Dwarf Therapist, though, which is a little weird. It just won't latch onto that window at all. And I don't know why. That's actually what's held me up from broadcasting the last couple of days. I was trying to figure out that mystery of why Dwarf Therapist, which, for those who don't know, Dwarf Fortress's UI is a little complex. And an easy way to handle it is to use a secondary program to manage the different tasks for dwarves. Much like, pretty much it's become the standard in the base management, where it's a hierarchy of, it goes through different phases where it'll look through and say, okay, all these assignments are on priority 1, and it goes from left to right. And the one that's furthest to the left is done first, and the next one, next one. Well, Dwarf Therapist is essentially a memory editor that triggers those in Dwarf Fortress itself, along with some other things inside the game. It just makes things a lot more easy to manage. But yeah, I just can't show that for some reason. I can't figure out why OBS isn't showing that. It's been irritating me, and I've been working on another project on top of that, which kept me from streaming. So, I think 11 followers have been probably wondering, where have I been? Or you could also
we miss you.
Or you could see me tweet about. My last one was the presidential nationwide message testing the emergency broadcast system, because I was questioning whether or not the president was actually alert. And are we on the same wavelength? You thought the same thing?
Yeah, we are. Because I was sitting, in a session, and my phone and my client's phone both went
screeched.
Off. Yep.
See, I didn't.
Presidential alert.
Yeah, I didn't.
I just started laughing.
Yeah, I didn't know about it until it went off, because I was in the kitchen making a sandwich for lunch, and suddenly my phone just starts going crazy, and I thought, oh no, did it break? Because that was a horrid noise.
Yeah.
Shut up!
Oh my god.
And I love the only option was okay. No, this is not okay. I'm just waiting for him to start using that power to talk about Crooked Hillary now.
I wouldn't be surprised if he did. Not one bit. But yeah, I busted out laughing in the middle of a session at that. And my client was like, why are you laughing? And then I made the exact same joke. I don't think he's very presidential or alert.
Well, I just went with, Honestly, I'm not sure about. So basically the same idea. We spent way too much time around one another. I mean, I think that's also pretty clear. So let's end our time together for the evening by once again saying, if you wish to reach us and tell us just how much time we've spent, and if it is too much together, vglpodcast@gmail.com with your letters, voicemails, gaming-related topics, or just tweet them to us, VGLPodcast, hopefully unencrypted. If you still pay for our podcast, you can do so, patreon.com/VGLPodcast. Granted, we don't need Toady One money, even though we wouldn't turn it down, right?
No, we would not turn that money down.
But it is greatly useful for our Podbean and the occasional ad campaign, which Podbean is vglpodcast.podbean.com, which hosts the RSS feed, the show notes, or you can find us on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, and most of the podcasting apps of choice. Our intro and outro music is On the Ground by Kevin MacLeod, and our Discovery Cube music is Doobly Doo, also by Kevin MacLeod. His work can be found at incompetech.com, and he is not listed in the Sentinels of the Storm because he is an original artist. And
as always, as his lovely music starts to roll across my voice, bye-bye now.
See ya.
Bye-bye.
So, what would you expect the next presidential alert to be?
I don't know.
Yeah.
There are so many things that flooded into my brain at some time.
And so many things that are wrong. Did you see the whole Mississippi rally?
No.
I've seen bits and pieces of that. The fact that he's having rallies still is... There's something wrong here. And I'm pretty sure.
Oh wait, is that the most recent one where he
I don't know.
Called down some news reporter and made fun of her?
No. This was the and now I'm blanking on Dr. Ford.
Oh yeah.
And the crowd laughing the entire time.
Yeah, there was a rally in Tennessee too. Johnson City, I think. There was he posted a tweet that was like, "Thank you Tennessee" or something like that, and it was like a 2-minute video of the line like to get into the building, and I responded to that tweet.
I didn't see that.
This makes me sad to be a Tennessean. Can't wait to vote blue when early voting starts in a couple of weeks.
He's tweeting about thoughts and prayers right now.
Oh no. What do we need thoughts and prayers for this time?
Looks like there was another mass shooting.
Oh, Jesus. Well, what a lovely way to end the banter, the post-show banter on.
Well, I could always trigger you with net neutrality.
Nah, I'm good.
I just
save that for another day.
Went over there and I saw thoughts and prayers. Do you think he has that on copy and paste now? Or whatever 80s screaming at to... get his tweets in somewhat legible fashion after the whole cafe thing.
Covfefe? Or whatever. Yeah, I don't know.
I feel sorry.
He probably doesn't know how copy and paste works.
Yeah, that's why I said an intern.
Yeah, the most recent stuff I've seen about New York City is going to sue him and get all that tax money back, and this whole report, I need to catch up on that because I saw that and I was like, whoa.
Yeah, I saw that when I went over to Reddit Bed Show and I thought,
oh my God. Nope, this is it. This is it. And then we're going to end. Rogue NASA tweeted a little bit earlier. I just saw it. Presidential alert. Nobody panic. The Space Force has got this. That's it. We're out. Good night, everybody.
Woo, Space Force.